Hello, my name is Brenda, and I am with Positive In, Positive Out Stroke Survivors. And again, today we have Ralph Preston, and he's going to give us some information on using exercising at home and some other information on PT, asking our PTs or our OTs some questions. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Ralph.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Um, well, today we're going to talk a little bit about setting up a home at-home exercise program for your recovery, and that's pretty easy to do. You just start exercising at home, but of course you're going to have a few questions like, "What should I do?" and that sort of thing. And we'll get to all that, but I thought the first thing to cover would be like, why? Why do you need an exercise program uh, at home? And there are a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't see anybody getting better in 45 minutes therapy session, one or two a week. It takes more than that. It takes a few hours a day. It takes basically all the energy you have that you can put into it. A lot of people have neurofatigue early on, and it's difficult for them to uh, do a lot of exercising. Um, but one thing you can do about that is try and pay attention to your schedule, try and get good sleep at night, pay attention to your schedule, take naps that are strategically placed during the day so that you have other periods during the day where you can do blocks of exercise, because you'll do a lot better doing a couple, I mean, when people say, well, what did you do? Well, I did more than anybody would ever do. I did 8, 10, 12 hours a day. But you ought to be spending, even if you're new and neurofatigue, you ought to be spending an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon if you can, and you ought to be working towards a couple hours, assuming you can. So there's the other reason to set up a program at home is because you will run out of insurance. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so, since you're going to have to do this anyway, I'm a proponent. I look at it this way. Since you have to set up a home program if you want to continue to get better after your insurance gives out, and by the way, some people don't know this, a lot of people do. Your insurance typically resets every year. So same with Social Security disability and stuff. So if you run out come next January, so if you've been out since August or October of this year, it's getting ready to reset in January. One thing I tried to do always was kind of find out how many I got and space them out so they lasted the whole year. Of course, the physical therapy people, especially if you're new, they want you to come twice a week for a while. So that's another thing you can do is try and spread out your therapy so it lasts as long as possible. And so you're going to run out of therapy, so you may as well start a home exercise program right away because you're going to need it later. The other thing that plays into this is the fact that if you have to look at your therapist sort of like a piano teacher. So if you're going to have to set up a home piano program, you don't want to do it the last week that they come. Well, actually, with a piano teacher, they have a home program because they understand that if you don't get any better playing the piano if you don't practice at home. You know, if you go to the teacher comes to you, and that's all you do. That's all the piano practice you get. So I look at the physical therapist as a resource, as a source of information, way to learn the kinds of things that you can and should be doing, both in therapy and at home. And so I suggest that people try and establish a different relationship with their physical therapist. Ask about homework. right away. Start doing whatever they tell you to do right away. Do it enough that you can go back in the next week and show them enough improvement that they can tell that you've been doing it at home. If you do that, you'll have a completely different relationship with your physical therapist. They'll understand that that you want to get better, and particularly if you come in and demonstrate. I mean, you don't have to do it perfectly, but I always had them. I'm a visual learner, so I always asked for my homework, and I would say, okay, so this is what we're talking about. I'd have them do it once, then I would do it once and say, is that right? Because if I watch it and then I do it, then I remember it when I get home. I remember how to do it. So that's real useful for me. Of course, you have to do it based on your learning style, but most people can learn, visually and by demonstration. So that works pretty well. So what I would do would be I would take that exercise and I would do it enough that I could come back in the next week and do it better than I had when they were showing me how to do it. Once you do that, you get their attention. And you'll never have to ask for homework again. Once you get good at something, they'll take it off your plate and add something in automatically. They know you want this information, so they'll just give it to you. You also move out of that category of people who come to the physical therapist looking for the physical therapist to make them better, or looking to get better in 45 minutes, or even if you have hour-long sessions, you almost never get more than 2 a week. Now I'm talking about outpatient physical therapy here. If you're in a rehab hospital or something, you get a whole lot more, but you also get kicked out in about 2 or 3 weeks. As soon as you can transfer and feed yourself and do a few things, they send you home. And when you go home, especially from a rehab hospital like I was in, I had PT twice, OT twice, hand and arm, and pool. I had 6 therapy sessions a day. And Sundays, they didn't do them Sunday morning or something. They were more limited, but 6 days a week, I had 6 sessions a day. So you go, and 4 on Sunday, let's say. So you go from 40 sessions, so 6 times 6, plus 4, 40 sessions a week to nothing. And you're gonna grind to somewhat of a halt. Another good reason to start a home therapy program. I mean, I would recommend. I didn't do this. I didn't ask, but I set up my own as soon as I got home. If I'd known, I would have asked, because typically when you get out of the hospital or a rehab hospital or sent home, it takes 3 or 4 weeks to get into physical therapy. When I see all those people in the groups post like, oh, I just got approved for physical therapy, I go 3 weeks from Friday, I'm thinking, well, that's today's Friday. So if it was 3 weeks from Friday, it'd be, you have 21 days you could do something. You're going to sit around at home waiting for physical therapy to happen in 21 days from now? A lot of people do. I see people shaking their head, just like I saw Winnie shaking her head up and down when I was talking about having a different relationship with your physical therapist if you ask for homework, because I know that she's heard me say this before a number of times. I also know that she has engaged her physical therapist in this way, and I think that she's seen a different type of relationship come out of that, and perhaps different results. We'll let her comment on that later if she wants to. So, before you go setting up a home program, what I'm trying to do is tell you the importance of it. It's how people get better, and you're going to run out of insurance. So those are the 2 main reasons. What other things do I see people doing other than waiting 3 weeks to go in, not asking for homework?
Something that I wanted to ask you about too, Ralph, is that I've learned that when I have my physical therapy or my occupational therapy, I have a notebook. One is orange, one is green. And with the notebook that I have, I always ask them for homework. They will have the homework. They will circle the ones they want me to do. And then when they come back the following week, they notice a difference in what I've been doing, just like what you said. And then they'll start seeing that they get more aggressive with me. And that's the thing that I like. I want them to be a little bit more aggressive instead of like patting me along, get a little bit more aggressive, because it's like you said, it's not that it's a matter of when it's going to end. It's not if, it's just when it's going to end. And I keep my mind prepared for that. Even with here at home with my caregiver sometimes, like I told you, I have fallen before. I would not let her get me up. And the reason why is because she's not with me 24 hours a day. So I have to learn how to get up myself. It's something that you have to learn to do, whether it's getting up, whether it's doing your exercise or anything else. You have to learn to do it yourself, because it's just a matter of time before that insurance is going to give out. And with me, for some reason, with my paperwork going in, it still takes them a month to approve it. So I go sometimes a month, sometimes 6 weeks with no therapy at all before they approve it.
Right. And what it sounds like is you've experienced that difference in asking for and doing homework. You move out of that category of, they get a lot of different people, and physical therapists become physical therapists because they want to help people. So they can tell if you're doing your homework, and they can tell that the people that are doing their homework and asking for homework and looking for this different type of relationship, they're different than the people that come in and think, okay, I'm here, make me better. Um, uh, so, uh, yeah, I think that you've experienced that too with your physical therapist. So, so another reason to start this home program, other than is to take advantage of them for as long a period of time as you can, because I found when you go over that whole homework thing, it's like an additional teaching component to the 45 minutes. Sure, it takes 5 minutes out of your 45 minutes or whatever, but it brings a whole nother dimension, because you're now talking about things beyond what you just did. Sometimes they'll say, well, I want you to do what we did here, and I want you to do this and this at home. But you get involved on a whole nother level, and that's good, because see, basically the way I look at it is, when you have a physical therapist like a piano teacher, you want to pick their brain. If now most of us, like when I took piano lessons, I was mostly doing it for my parents. I was interested in learning how to play, but it's different when you're talking about recovery, because it would hope that everybody out there that has a stroke would want to get better. Most people do. Most people are willing to put in the effort. So if you start early, you can pick their brain more. I mean, when I go to physical therapy, half the reason I do it is to learn, or most of the reason I do it is to learn things I can do at home. Because if I learn them, I can do them whenever I want. And when I have physical therapy, I have to go and do it for a limited period of time when they want. So that's another reason to start early, because you'll end up with a bigger knowledge base, and you're going to need it. A couple of things that I always preach to stroke survivors is learn how to be your own best patient advocate. Learn everything you can about the brain, and learn everything you can about physical therapy, because you're going to be your own physical therapist at some point, or you need to be. So, those are some things. What else holds people back? Well, attitude holds people back a lot. I don't see people jumping to set up a home therapy program when they haven't gotten over the whole acceptance thing. When you're hung up in that, I want to go back to the old me loop, it really gets in the way of everything, unfortunately. And it's a real sticking point. It was a sticking point for me too. I'm not sitting here saying, do as I say, not as I did, because I had I had minor trouble with it. I had less than most people, but it's a stumbling block for everybody. It's not really easy to deal with having a stroke and having to get better and not having any real knowledge about it. I mean, I knew what a stroke was, but I didn't know anything much about physical therapy or what things to do. But I knew that they walked me in the rehab hospital. I knew certain things we did in hand and arm class and in occupational therapy, and I just kind of extended those things at home until it was a few weeks, like I said, till I got into the outpatient. And then I was going, twice a week. But I did a whole lot more than that at home. Um, so, another thing I hear is some of the people who are maybe or gotten through most of that transition to realizing that they have to take. Here's the deal. When you're sitting around saying, what happened to me? I want to go back to the way it was. You're not taking responsibility for your own recovery. And the physical therapist can't do it for you. The cavalry's not coming. It's up to you. So sooner you realize it's up to you, then the sooner you're going to take responsibility and say, well, if I don't do something, it isn't going to happen because there isn't anybody else out there who's going to make it happen. So,
something that I noticed that my physical therapist said to me, she said, oh, you really want to do this? She said, I'm accustomed to people who want me to do it, who want me to start doing this. And if I don't do it, I don't make a move so far as like telling them, let's say, lift their leg up as far as you can. If I don't pick it up and lift it up, knowing that they can pick it up just a little bit, and she wants them to pick it up just a little bit, and then she wants them to raise their unaffected leg up. She said that they really just don't do it. I said, I don't want you doing that with me. I just tell me what you want me to do, and I'm going to do it. And that's what I want. And she says, okay, I love this. She said, I'm very enthusiastic about working with you. They can tell the difference when you want to work and when you just want to sit up there and just do nothing. You have to want this. And like you said, and I love this term that you say, the cavalry's not coming in. They're nowhere around. You can keep looking for them all day that you want to, but they're not coming in. It's up to you as a person to take your physical therapy, to take your OT, to take your way of life right now and make the best of it as you can. And the way you do that is by exercising, but you can't expect someone to be there every single day to lift your leg up, to lift your arm up, to lift, to do anything, to do speech with you. You have to do some things yourselves, because at one point in time, all that's going to be over with.
You can have all the money in the world and have a personal trainer and they can lift that arm up, but at some point, if you want to lift that arm up, you have to lift that arm up, not pay somebody to lift it up. So I went like this a couple times. I wanted to go bingo, bingo, because what you're saying is exactly what I was saying. You're describing the difference. Your physical therapist said to you, not in so many words, but this is what they said. They said, oh, so you aren't like all those other people that I get that, that I recognize the difference. And not only that, I like working with you. That's the whole point of this. When you have that, when you try to establish that kind of relationship, you take it up a notch. So I guarantee you that your physical therapist is thinking about you and thinking about things that she can do with you outside of your therapy, or like while she's waiting for you to come in. She's putting more effort, he or she is putting in more effort in your case because they know there's a payback for it. Like I said, people become physical therapists because they want to help people. If they didn't want to help people, they'd become bankers.
Right, absolutely. Her whole main goal was that she looked at me surprised because she wanted me to do leg lifts, and I did 20. So then I said, can I do 20 more? And she looked at me, she said, you want to do 20 more? I said, yes. I said, 20 wasn't enough. I don't feel anything. I mean, I want to try 20 more and see if my leg gets tired. So I did 20 more. So she said, okay, that's good. Let's try another one. Oh, let's try something else. And when she did it, I always did twice as many. The reason why, not to show off, but the what that she was giving me was 10 at a time or 20 at a time. It was not affecting me. It was like, that's nothing. I mean, that was nothing to me. I wanted more, and she saw that I wanted more. So therefore she started giving me more and more
Right.
and more to do.
Right.
It also
You don't have to, that's what I was saying. At some point, you don't have to ask because, see, you differentiated yourself from the others. And that's why I'm saying she's spending more time, more energy on you because she's got to feel like there's more of a payback. Remember, these folks, they know that they're going to run out of insurance. You're going to run out of insurance too. So if you don't act like real interested, you can get into this thing. And I'm not saying all physical therapists are bad or any of them are bad, but they're on the other side of this equation. They know eventually you're going to run out. They see somebody not put in much effort. They start biding their time with them. They know eventually, they'll be gone. You might try something. If it doesn't work, then, they kind of go back to the playbook. Okay, you're here. You think I'm going to make you better. I don't know why. If I was a physical therapist, I'd sit everybody down and point my finger at them and tell them what they need to do. But they don't seem to do that. So the other thing that I noticed that people do that prevents them from setting up a home program is this whole "I can't" thinking. I can't. Well, I can't get down on the floor. Why not? Oh, because I can't get up. Oh, okay. So you can get down, but you can't get up. So you can get down, and because they already have said I can't. This is a mindset that I can't. You kind of have to have okay, I have to, if nothing else.
I practice 3 times a week, getting on that floor. I slide from my sofa down and I get on that floor and then I get up. I know I have an ottoman that I can get up on. If I can't get on the ottoman, one day I actually was sleep. I know I had to be sleepwalking or something. I fell straight down on my sofa just like this, but because my body was laying flat, I had to turn it over, slide down, and then go to my ottoman, and I got up. It wasn't a big deal. You have to think, and that thinking is something that people don't want to do, or they're afraid. It's going to happen one day. Something's going to happen one day, and you're going to need to help yourself. There's not going to be someone around to help you, and you need to be able to help yourself. And that's what my learning that I've done with the physical therapy and OT is that teach me how to do this, teach me how to do that. I want to learn, but I want you to be aggressive with me because you're not going to be here always. And I tell them in a minute, don't help me up. Do not help me up. Let me do it myself. Do not do this. Let me do it myself. Let me try it myself. Then if I can't get it, I'll let you do it for me.
Right. So, one of the things, if you can't get down, okay, so if you can't get down on the floor to do floor exercises, then you need to be practicing. I worked with a woman for about 5 years, and after we got her crawling and we were working on, we worked on, well, she crawled for a while, and then we worked on standing, and we wanted to be able to have her work. She wanted to be able to work on her own without us safely. So we taught her to how to get out of the wheelchair and get back in. And we did that 6 times every time. I went there 3 times a week, and we do it 6 times when I arrived and 6 times before I left. Right. Also with the eye exercises, she always wanted the eye exercises done twice per session because she felt they did a lot of good for her. Anyway, so, we practiced 12 times, 36 times a week for about 6 months until she could get it on her own. And then I just started still being there, but I took another step back. And then she tried it on her own. She was able to do it. And from that point on, she did mat work in the morning and in the afternoon. We'd have her do knee stands, which are real good for the core. And we added like long and short lever, which throw your body around a little bit, which mean you have to correct your core. So Well, I always, I've worked with 13 local stroke survivors, and at some point I got to go in and just, like, take a look at where they're at, get them into physical therapy. I take them to physical therapy. I get homework for them. I do the homework for them. And, one of the things I've always said to every single one of them is, and this relates back to getting on the floor or getting up out of the wheelchair, I would say to them, you're not very good at that. You know what that means? And they'd look at me like, no. I'd go, it means you got a lot of them in your future. Meaning, if you can't do something, the only way you're going to fix it is by trying to do it. So, like you're saying, you practice getting down off the floor and getting back up. Getting down's a lot easier because you have gravity working with you. What you really only have to do there is make sure that you don't, like, if you come out of the chair onto your hands position, that you don't, do it so fast that you throw your weight forward and your hands collapse and you end up on your nose. And, there are people out there, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but they'll say, well, I can't because I only have one hand. So I'll go do a video and I'll show them how I do it with one hand. Oh, well, then they usually disappear. So you can't have a I can't attitude. You have to have a I'll try attitude. And, one of the things you can do, this isn't necessarily true about, say, getting in and out of a wheelchair, but a lot of times you can break down a task into subtasks and not try and do the whole thing at one time. Try and learn the parts, get better at the parts. A good example of this is, okay, another thing, if you can't get down on the floor, another good one is, well, I can't stand up in a wheelchair. Well, you ought to be working on sit-to-stands. And you ought to be, it's again, if you can't do something, that's what you need to be practicing and working on. So actually, I've got some things here. I got a way that I can show people how they can work on sit-to-stands. I'll try sharing the screen. This should be interesting. Okay, so I'm going to share the desktop. No, I'm going to share preview counter grab bar wheelchairs. Okay. Okay, well, we got to hit the share button. I told you this would be interesting. Okay. So, for all the people who say, well, I don't have anybody to spot me. Of course, it's better if you have a partner, a helper, a caregiver, a significant other, a relative, whatever, who's willing to help you. It doesn't always work that way. Other people have schedules and things. This is a way that I've worked out for a couple of people that I go and see, because guess what? When I play physical therapist, I'm not one, I'm a stroke survivor. I've spent 10 years learning all I can about physical therapy and stroke. I took my own advice. And so this is something I worked out for somebody because, I would tell them the same philosophy. Okay, I'm coming for an hour a week, twice a week, but here's what you need to do. And, or I would take them to physical therapy twice a week. I'd go do physical therapy with them, and I'd hope that they would do it some other times. So this is a simple way that you can work on standing up. That's a suction cup grab bar. I own 3 of them. I bought one for somebody last night. I don't know how many I've sold recommending them, but I know I've purchased somewhere between 15 and 20 of them. They're real handy because, especially if you have that counter height, and if you see how a lot of places, a lot of kitchens and homes do have that counter height. The other thing that's nice about the counter height, you can do this with regular kitchen counters, especially if you're shorter. The thing that's nice about this kind of counter is, see, it sticks out, so you got place for your knees to go, like if you're doing high stepping or something. Just, it works out. But so you can wheel the wheelchair up and lock it. Yes, lock it. Safety is the most important thing in any program, home or at therapy, but particularly at home, particularly if you're by yourself. If you're by yourself, you should have your cell phone in your pocket or right there on the counter, or put it on the floor, because if you need the cell phone, you're more likely to need it on the floor than you are on the counter. If you can't get it off the counter because you're sitting on the floor, that's not good. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I always here's the deal: if you take like little steps towards thinking about things and having the cell phone in your pocket or in the wheelchair or something where you can get it from anywhere, then if you have a problem, you have a solution. So those grab bars are not meant to hold up 300 pounds, but the first thing I did when I got one was I stuck it down good and I tried to rip it off the counter. I did rip it off the counter, and it took a whole lot more effort than I ever thought. And so they're pretty safe for something like this. So what you want to do in a sit to stand is power it up with your legs. And my left arm is pretty much fully recovered. I'm dangling it there like it doesn't work. And, but I can, and I did this. I pulled myself up without using my legs with a grab bar with my one strong arm. And so it is possible to stand up this way without even using your legs. But of course, if you don't want to pull up on with a grab bar forever, what you want to do is use as much of your legs as possible and pull up as little. The way you would measure progress on this would be that you would feel like, I'm not pulling up as much as I was the other day. My legs are doing more of the work. That's what you want to do whenever you're doing anything at home, is pay attention to the results so that you know that you're making progress. So that's a real simple way to work on sit to stands. Once you can stand up, there are tons of things that you can do with that grab bar at the counter. Things like weight bearing, high stepping, deep knee bends, standing leg extension, butt kickers, kicking and turn sideways and kick. I just named about 8. There are probably a few more. Let's see if this works to flip through the pictures. Okay, maybe I have to be on the pictures. Yes. Again, people say, well, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't do anything. Well, yeah, you can. Here's I'm doing toe lifts. One of the first things you have to do if you want to walk, even if you're in a wheelchair, there are things that you can be doing to work on walking, even if you can't stand up and walk. One of them is that you need to be able to pull that ankle up and down. It's called dorsiflexion. And if you can't do it on your own, I'm showing you how you can do it with a TheraBand. In this case, a piece of rope works. I know somebody who did it with knee socks, big, tall knee socks. She had no money and anything. She used Campbell's soup cans for weights and knee socks instead of TheraBands. See, the deal about home, and the reason I preach home, is you are always home, particularly if you're a stroke survivor. If you got mobility issues, you're probably home more than you ever want to be. So, and I think that the healing goes on at home because you can put in your time at home. And you don't have to be walking to work on the pieces of walking. You can be working on like your ankles in this case while you're still in the wheelchair, while you're working on sit to stands. There's a leg lift. You said you did 20 leg lifts the other day. I don't know if they were seated or not, Brenda, but if you're not standing yet, you can still lift them. And again, you can, this one shows me doing it without a TheraBand or rope, but in these are videos from my YouTube channel, Screen Grabs. That's why they got the buttons across the bottom. In there, I talk about, I demonstrate it with a TheraBand and a rope, because I've run into this before. What happens is I make a video and somebody will say, but I can't do that, or, so I drop down a couple levels. Okay, if you can't lift your toe yet, or you can't lift your leg yet, assist it. But whenever you're assisting anything, the goal is to get to do it by yourself. So if you're ever pulling up on something, you should be trying to lift the leg too, and pull as little as possible. It's like pulling yourself up at the counter. You want to do it with your legs. You want to do it less with your arms. So if you just sit there and pull your leg up and down with your arm, you're building up your arm. And so you have to like think about it and move it. The other thing about there is actually something called mental practice, where it's a form of neuroplasticity. By thinking about doing it and then doing it, you make brain connections. So you want to always be thinking about the movement that you're assisting passively. Passively means, like if you're lifting your arm or whatever, you want to try and raise it. One thing you do, I would do with people is I'd put my hand under their elbow and I'd let them lift it. I'd tap them and touch them and cue them and get them to lift as high as they can. Then I would help them. Then I would let go and see if they could hold it. Raise it up. They'll come back down. Raise it up again. Try and get them to hold it. The point is to get the arm and the brain to do it, not the other hand. Oh, I'm in preaching mode now. Oh, sorry about that. Anyhow, and here's mental practice with your hand. Yeah, believe it or not, we had Bob Anderson on a couple of weeks ago, the last time we did this, and Bob shared the fact that, they told me to open my hand with my other hand to think about it. So I didn't have a plan, so I went with their plan. It seemed crazy to me. So I stared at my hand, and finally it just twitched, a little flicker of movement. Bob got one, and he's built on it. So I know this works. I felt like for the longest time when I recommended this, I felt like people thought I was crazy because I thought the people who told me were crazy, but it works. And when you try and, another thing you do is like watch. I always have people watch the body part. Like, don't look over here when you're raising your arm. Watch that arm go up because that's positive reinforcement. So, the point of doing any assist is to get the movement going, but you need to think about it so that you can eventually have your brain do it. What you want is voluntary movement, not passive movement where you're helping to move it. Now, passive movement's real good because if you got a hand that's, won't open particularly, the best thing to do is open it up, keep it open, put it down on the counter, put it down on your knee, on your thigh, on the arm of the sofa, because it's acting like a splint. You want to hold those fingers open. Fists want to, your hand wants to close because your flexor muscles are a lot stronger than your extensors, and when you get spasticity in your hand, it seems to take over the flexors and close that hand, and then people have that, I can't open my hand's frozen stuff. So I've got a whole series of hand exercises on my YouTube channels. So we've talked a little bit about your physical therapist as a piano teacher and getting exercises from them. Well, eventually you'll run out and you won't be able to go to physical therapy until next year or whatever. By the time you get in next year, you'll really understand why you should be picking their brain as much as they'll let you. But in the meantime, and to supplement what your therapist might be saying, there are a number of YouTube channels out there. It didn't exist. When I had my stroke almost 14 years ago, I could not find, I'm a video producer, so I looked immediately for video. I already had a YouTube channel, but I was selling my, camera work and editing skills. But I couldn't find a single video on stroke rehabs, which is why I wanted to do something about that, and why I have, and why the rest of the world has too, because it's well needed. So I've got a whole YouTube channel. Here's a video on sit-to-stands once you've progressed past the pulling up at the counter. And here's some basics. These aren't in any particular order. I didn't get time to order them. Here's some basic mat work you can do. These are real basics: crawling, rolling, and bird dogs. You can also do a lot of good things on the mat, like clamshells, bridges, planks, one-legged bridges, lots of stuff. I've got all of these on my YouTube channel. I'm going to go into So here's like this playlist. So if you go to somebody's YouTube channel, you can look and see if they have playlists, because they're real handy, because I got stroke videos. Well, I uploaded them all at the same time, so you can find them pretty easily, except they're down about 70 videos now because they were uploaded about 3 years ago. So a playlist puts them all in the right order and in one place, so you can look for playlists. I have them on hand, and I also have them on like Walking Better, and sometimes the channel owner will put comments over there. They go from easier to more difficult, top to bottom. I kind of tried to arrange them in some kind of order. There are about 20 of them. It's not the simplest thing to do. Um, Home therapy, any therapy, is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So you're going to do better if you pay attention to your body, and you can look and see what your deficits are, what you're doing. You can say, oh, I'm swinging my leg, or I'm catching my toe. Both of those come from not lifting your leg. Not being able to lift your leg and bend your knee is nothing wrong with your knee. You have upper leg weakness. You need to be doing marching and knee bends, deep knee bends, and that kind of thing to build up that upper leg. Brenda, you went through that, where you built up your upper leg and you no longer circumducted and you weren't dragging your toe anymore. So
Right, right.
that's why you want to learn how to be a physical therapist, because everybody will tell you I can't bend my knee. I mean, I've had people say, well, I can't bend my knee. I said, well, sure, you can bend your knee. And they, no, I can't bend my knee. What they mean is it doesn't bend when they're walking. I've actually told a couple of people, sit down in a chair. Okay, you're sitting in a chair. Okay, where are your feet? Oh, they're both on the ground. Okay, well, then you can bend your knee. It doesn't bend when you're walking. And that comes from not having the strength, the quads and the glutes and the hamstrings to lift that leg enough. And like for anybody out there, Brenda, you fixed that in what, a week or so, 2 weeks at the most, just by focusing in on what the problem was. So this is one reason you want to pick, so if you go back in and tell your physical therapist, oh, I seem to notice I'm dragging my toe a lot when I walk, they'll tell you what to do. So learning about paying attention to what's going on with you, interacting with a physical therapist, learning what to do about it, and then doing that, you can make some real progress. I wonder, these people say, I've been doing my little arm bike for 3 years and nothing's happening. Well, yeah, because you got used to it a long time ago. We won't talk about plateauing here today too much, but you plateau when you don't challenge your brain, when you don't mix it up. When you do the same thing forever, it's one reason why when you get to the end of your physical therapy, you better have a robust program at home and know how to mix it up and do things, because if you take that last sheet that they give you, the last week you're there, and you do that for the next year, it'll only do you good for about a month before your brain gets lazy and doesn't do anything for you. So, and this is what a YouTube channel typically looks like. If you look at all the videos, they're not in any particular order. They're in the order that I uploaded them. So we got like ankles, weight bearing on shoulders, leg lifts, neuroplasticity, posture. So that's why playlists are handy. They're also, I'm not the only one doing this, and I've learned a fair amount about physical therapy, but I'm not a physical therapist. Like Dr. Tara Tobias is a neurological trained physical therapist. She has a lot of really good tips and information and videos on her channel. She's not had a stroke, so I think, and luckily for her, she hasn't. I think that I bring a slightly different perspective to things because I have, and I know what I went through. I knew what some of the problems are. She sees that same thing through her eyes, through the patients that she interacts with, and I got it from not only from my own recovery, but also the stroke survivors that I worked with locally. And if you're looking for a physical therapist, if you can find somebody who's neurologically trained, has some kind, possibly an NDT certification, or at least an interest, you can look at their resume. It'll sometimes say with an interest in neurological issues, or you can say, look for people who've worked with people with stroke and TBI, because a physical therapist the orthopedic physical therapist will approach it from the shoulder or the leg point of view. A neurological physical therapist will approach it from the brain to the limb connection. So Dr. Tobias is a neurotrained therapist, and she has excellent videos on her channel. Here's a guy I found. I'm a big believer in any kind of movement. What kind of movement should I do at home? Any kind of movement. More movement equals less depression. Move things through the range of motion. If you can't do something, that should be on the top of your list. Here's a guy that has an entire channel on using Qigong, which is sort of like a slower Tai Chi. I used to do it before my stroke. And how to use Qigong for stroke recovery. Here's a channel where they do more than just stroke recovery. It's a Pilates channel. And here's some videos on how to use Pilates for stroke recovery. Again, what is everybody doing? They're moving through the range of motion. They're forcing the body to do the things that it can't do. Flint Rehab, who makes a bunch of products, they have a very good website. They have very good articles on lots of things on their website. I use their links all the time because they have good articles on Botox and just various subject matter. And, again, remember, you're supposed to learn all you can about stroke. So here's Flint Rehab's channel. They've got some stories. Stories are always good, seeing other people. I have some on mine. They're labeled stroke motivational, where we talk to people about how they got better. People like examples. That's why these YouTube channels flourish. That's why people come to my YouTube channel. They want to see, how I did it. Okay, I thought I had one more. I did, but it didn't come across. That would be Michelle Jensen. And there are more of them out there. You got Bob and Dave, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet, if you can stomach them. I personally don't think anybody who is the most famous physical therapist on the internet needs to tell me that. I find that the people who I have a lot of respect for in my life that I've met, not a one of them ever told me how great they were. Anyway, I'll stop picking on Bob and Dave. There's a number of other channels out there. Look for things that are stroke specific. There's some personal trainers and such. There are exercises. If you know what you need to do, say you need to do a hamstring exercise, you can go look and type in hamstring exercises. If your physical therapist says, oh, well, your hamstrings are weak, here's something. You want more? You can type in hamstring exercise. You can find somebody who's not dealing with it in stroke and use it. But they might be doing it in a way. Well, like hamstring exercises, there's a number of ways to do them. One of which is, doing them in a chair where you stretch your leg out and then point your toe. So if you're in a wheelchair, you're going to need an adaptive hamstring one, or if you can only stand if, your significant other's around or something, then, you're limited. So that's why the stroke ones work, because they typically adapt things or show you things on different levels. That's why, I got a lot of people who say, well, I can't get down on the floor yet. So I made a video on how to get out of a wheelchair and how to get back into it. And then the person somebody said, well, I only have one hand. So I went back and I shot it, with one hand. So you got to develop I'm going to give it a try, and then I can do it mindset. There's just no way around it. This isn't a simple, it's not a simple task to get better from having a stroke. But you know what the answer is if you don't try. You're going to get stuck in that wheelchair, and none of us really want to do that. It's funny because people always say, like, I occasionally post stuff on my Facebook page about stroke, and people who haven't had a stroke will come in and say, wow, you people are so brave and you work so hard, and and you just want to say, yeah, well, you have to be brave and you have to work your butt off when you're not given a damn choice. It's do that or don't
That's
get
what it
better.
boils down to. That's what it boils down to. You're not given a choice. You have to make up in your mind, either I'm going to do this and not feel sorry for myself. I'm going to get up and try. I don't care if my finger just moves 1/16 of an inch. It's moving 1/16 of an inch. Maybe tomorrow it'll move more. If not, still it moved at 1/16 of an inch. And be proud of the small accomplishments that you make. Small accomplishments lead to bigger accomplishments. But it's all in trying and still saying, oh, I wish I could have. When I look at your videos, I get inspired. When I look at other people in videos, I get inspired. But I've learned to look at yours because you break your videos down, and it's easier for me to do the videos, and I appreciate that fact that the videos are easier to do. I also appreciate the fact that my PT I have, she's excellent. She is the type of PT that's going to say, okay, you want to do more? Let me give you more. And she's going to give me more and push me to do so. And then she's going to give me homework. She has her homework in hand, and I also ask her. Now, with my OT, she's a little bit more gentle. And that's one thing that I told her the other day. You can't be gentle with me because it won't work. It won't work. I need you to put some force, some push with it, because what you're doing is not going to work for me. So she started working and being more aggressive with me, and it worked out.
Yeah, I've heard, I could tell you in the names of one or two, but I've heard 6 people at least, and I bet you Winnie's heard one of them say, I wish, if I could do it all over again, I would hire a drill sergeant to whoop my butt into shape. You've heard it. You're shaking your head, Winnie. You've heard that too, haven't you? We don't all necessarily have the motivation. That's why I started off with the importance of doing this, so that you can try and get to acceptance. The fact that you accept what's happened to you does not equate to quitting. I don't understand why newly minted stroke survivors think if they accept that they had a stroke, and they might not go back to being the way they were, but they're alive. They get hung up on this whole thing, and some of them are doing it like 2 years later. I'm 2 years out, and I still regret, that I still miss my old self every single day, every moment. Well, if you didn't have a stroke, you can't go back 2 years. You can't go back 2
You can't go back
days.
to yesterday. If you didn't have a stroke, you can't go back to yesterday. You have to concentrate on now. You have to
Right.
concentrate on now. What can I do for myself now? The stroke is over with. When I say that, the stroke part is over with. You had a stroke, so where do I go now? How can I improve myself now?
Right. I said, I'm going to be the best new me I can be. So the advice I would give to other people is be the best new you can be. How do you do that? People say, oh, I don't feel the same. I can't do any of my old hobbies. Well, how do you know that if you don't try? Here's the thing. I tell people a couple of things to try and get over this. Try and get some hobbies. Engage in the things that you're passionate about and be passionate about it. If you can also volunteer. And get moving in any way, shape, or form. I mean, even if you're pushing your arm up in a wheelchair, or pulling your toe up with a rope. I mean, that's where it starts. That 1/16 of an inch came from Bob Anderson. I mean, Rebecca sent him my hand video about opening your hand. I got 1/8 of an inch, and Bob got 1/16 of an inch one night. Well, that was like 6-7 weeks ago. And that man put on his shoes, tied his shoes, and went and took pictures at the Atlanta Botanical Gardens the other night. He's also eating pumpkin pie and stuff with his affected hand. I mean, so he's gone from like, how did he do that? He did it by jumping on it early. He didn't have the pity party stuff. So this is why it's really important. And he's on, he posts in Brenda's group every single day. So I mean, he's not some entity I'm talking about that you can't go and see. You can actually click on his name and scroll back through his videos. You go back a few weeks, he won't be doing the things he's doing now. He jumped on it, which is important because that neuroplasticity, which does last a lifetime, you have more of it closer to your stroke. So when you sit around going, I can't do this, or I want the old me, you're burning neuroplasticity at a time when you can't afford to. So
The sad part, I think, is that they don't understand whether you have a stroke or not, there is no old me. That every day is a new day. And every day you have to start and you have to just come with the attitude, okay, what's one thing I'm going to accomplish today? It may be to take my hand and lift it up like this and move my fingers like that.
Well,
Okay, that's what I did.
I was talking to Bob this morning, 2 hours ago, and he had a woman. Isn't this great? He's less than 2 months in, and he's got people asking him how to get better. So he was helping a woman in New York, and I said, "Doesn't it feel good to help people?" And he said, "Yes, Ralph, it does." I said,
Good
"Look
job.
at you! In 2 months, you're the damn expert." I said, "Bob, you're the expert because you try." And I'm not trying to pick on this woman from New York because I don't know her. I don't know her name. But there are a lot of people out there that need an example, and Bob is a good example. And Bob's like me, he's one of those people that just says, I'm going to try it. And yeah, you need to have goals every day. Bob takes it one step further. This morning he was saying, I was telling this woman she has to have goals every day, but I actually told her, I said, as soon as I eat with the pumpkin pie, I set a new goal. He said, every day I set multiple goals during the day. As soon as I achieve one, I come up with something else. Challenging himself mentally. I'm talking about in terms of attitude by doing that. He also, by trying all those things, he's challenging his brain. And that's why he's getting better so fast. I mean, I love it because I did the same sort of thing. And another person in your group, Veronica Coney, also jumped on it. In fact, after we had that little talk, I invited Bob to that meeting because I knew we could talk about it. We started it there, and then I set up a meeting of my own with Bob and Veronica, and we called it, neuroplasticity early on. Jump on your recovery if you can. And this is why. These are the results. Veronica had a brain tumor or something, a TBI or a brain tumor, not a stroke, where she previously learned about jumping on it, and because she didn't, and she eventually got better. And this time she jumped on it, and bingo! I mean, she was walking up steps on day 9. One step to the next step, not playing catch up, no touching the rails, no nothing. Who ever heard of that? Nobody who didn't try it. Nobody who didn't try it.
That's true. Does anybody have any questions for Ralph right now?
I want to know how to get your legs straight, walking straight instead of sideways.
You talking about like not swinging it out?
Yeah, like she just says, I'm not putting in front and going more to the side.
Okay, you're talking about, yeah, I've watched your videos. By the way, anybody out there, I'll watch your videos and try and tell you what I think. I've watched Wendy's. So you're talking about the fact that it's probably your non-affected leg,
Right.
because it's usually the non-affected leg. What happens is we normally walk like this, and my left's affected. So to compensate, my right would go out a little bit and then toe would point out. Rebecca Finch does the same thing. And the only way to get rid of it is to think about it. Think about bringing that toe around and thinking about keeping those feet and legs in the same plane. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's one of those things that's left over from You did that to compensate because when you put that foot further out and you turn the toe out, you had a wider footprint, which gave you more stability. And so you learn to walk like that, because it gave you more stability because your brain was scared in the early days. When we talked about, so one reason why I tell people to break things down and do the pieces and don't, if your walking isn't good, work on the pieces. Don't go out walking because you can end up building in bad habits. We all have to do things that we don't want to do when we get up and walk, because you don't get up out of the wheelchair and just walk perfectly on day one. But the point is to try and knock them off the list and not build in bad habits. So that's a common bad habit. Another one is that because people can't weight bear, they tend to not put their unaffected foot farther forward. You were pretty good, but you've overcome that when you're taking pretty even steps. Now you're to the point where you're saying to yourself, how do I take slightly bigger steps?
Yep.
Now, I know the whole progression because I went through it myself. I went through it with a lot of people. Brenda, I know you got to go.
That's what I wanted to tell you.
We're going to
Thank you
wrap it
so
up
much.
here. I'm going to make sure I take Carlo.
Carlay.
Carlay's. Oh, it's an I on the end. Sorry, the text is about this big. I'm going to make sure I answer your question and any other one anybody's got out there. So go ahead. You had a question?
Oh, I was going to ask, when is the best time to do exercise? Morning or night? Because I do take sometimes when I'm tired.
Okay. Well, I didn't take naps, and I can't recommend that to everyone because your brain does need some sleep to heal. I laid down 10 minutes every hour. I would work 45, 50 minutes and then just lay down. I never went to sleep, but I let my brain rest. I talked to a friend of mine who's an occupational therapist, William Lowe, about this. If you send me a message or you post in the group, hey Ralph, give me that video on neurofatigue. If you make a post in the group, that would probably be better because then everybody else in the group could see it. And I put it there before, but the thing about Facebook is it pushes everything down. So, if you don't see it, if you go to find a post that's a week old, it's, can be 20 posts down. So basically the answer to your question is both, both if you can do it. So William and I talk about strategies for this. And what he did was he paid attention to his body and his cycles when he felt like he needed a nap. And he found he was good in the morning. And so he would get up and do a biggest block of time as he could until he got tired. And then he would take a nap, and then he would eat lunch. And then if he felt like it, he would try and do another big block of time. He did 2 blocks a day. Said sometimes in the beginning he only got the one in the morning, but he worked towards taking a nap and recovering enough to do another one in the afternoon. And then he worked on taking a nap in the afternoon and doing a third one around dinner time. Depends on how much time you have and how much you want to push yourself. But the whole secret to almost everything with stroke recovery, in my opinion, is paying attention to your body, paying attention to your brain, paying attention to when you're tired, the cycles that you go through during the day. Because what you want to do is you want to do that exercise at a time when you feel fresh and when you feel like you could do it for a long period of time, not to where you really need a nap and you force yourself to do it and you don't feel like doing it after about 30 seconds and you quit after a few minutes. So the answer is it's kind of complicated. One thing I will say, and this has more to do with hands than anything, is that sometimes your hand will move before you get out of bed. Your brain resets every night. So some people find they have movement in their fingers before they get out of bed. Of course, the biggest problem is most of us wake up because we've been asleep forever and we've got to pee. So, actually, you know, I know somebody that, well, his wife got up early. He's one of the people who noticed this. His wife got up early and he got up early with her and started doing his therapy, and he happened to notice that his hand worked better in the morning. So now Winnie, you know him, David Lauderdale. So now he makes sure when he gets up and has his coffee with his wife and gets her off to work, that he, you know, goes right into his hand program because his hand works better in the morning. Um, I've David and I talked about this, and I've suggested it to a few people, and I actually had a guy who couldn't move his leg, couldn't do toe lifts during the day in his wheelchair. Even pulling up on him, it was a coordination issue on the pulling up on him, and a little bit of stubbornness, but he's not a stubborn person. Some people's stroke makes them stubborn, they'll only do it their way. It's really a big problem. Yeah, well, this guy was really nice guy, but like when we started, you know, so we'd talk and everything would be fine, and you know, then you start working with him on the therapy, and he'd go, no. And, what do you mean no? No. But he had aphasia too, so he couldn't say that many words. So we'd play charades, and he'd have to do it his way. Anyway, I got him he could find out he could move his toe in the morning. He could dorsiflect, move that toe up and down. So the best time is the time that you feel energized, so that you will, number one, you want to always work on form. You don't want to do things sloppy. When you're tired, you tend to do things a lot sloppier. When you're well rested and refreshed, then you have more brain power and more willpower to make sure that you do things correctly. So I know that's not like a 9:05 a.m. answer, but in my opinion, that's the right answer.